now.
Okay. Hi. So first of all, I'd like to just thank Brian for organizing this presentation. And what I'm going to do is just give you a quick overview for maybe 10 or 15 minutes of the services and the products that we're offering, discuss briefly some use cases along the way, and then mainly take questions, or if you've got really urgent questions, just pop them in the chat area and I'll address them as I go. So probably the easiest way to do is to just take you through the website, show you what the different services are and discuss the pricing, and then take you through the API pages and just give you a brief overview of that. So essentially what we do is we offer historical data, and at the moment we're targeting just equity markets. The data that we aim to provide is complete trading quote data. So complete for us means everything that the exchange has at least level 1 quotes and trades, you get that. So we don't fiddle with the data. This is one of the primary differences that we have compared to other vendors. We don't edit the data. We don't have any opinions about what's good or bad. If you've got a model that allows you or requires you to condition on certain things, if it's in the data set, you'll get it. So if we go down here, the two categories of products, if you like, that we're offering is the TAQ, the trade and quote data, and then the tickers, which are the services for accessing that data. You're not obligated to use those services. They're just very flexible and powerful if you do. So let me just go to the TAQ page and discuss that. First cab off the rank for us is going to be the US markets. So you'll see there we've got US equities, two US equity categories and equity options. The equity categories that we've got, the first one is essentially a data set that comes from the exchanges that's time-stamped to the second. So where there's trading quotes still exist as independent entries in the data set, but you can't disambiguate them from the timestamp because it's only at the second level. The three products that we offer the same, or the three sort of categories that we offer for each of the products are the same. We have our 300 series, our 200 series, and the 100 series. And this basically means you're either buying just the historical and monthly updates, you buy only the historical, or you subscribe only to the monthly updates. So that's the primary characteristics of the equity trading quote data offering. The data history is about 11 terabytes raw. If you go back to 1999, we may be able to go back a bit further than that, but at the moment that's what it is. You get the REST API access in all of our data products. We don't sell this as a separate thing that you have to pay for. Okay, so the Equity Plus data set, that's slightly different in that you now have millisecond timestamps on that data set, and also you get, when you subscribe for the updates, you get daily updates. Now, so the pricing is a little bit different, and so is the frequency of the updates as well as the resolution of the timestamps. The data history here is not as extensive. This only goes back to 2006 for the millisecond timestamps. And obviously daily updates are from whenever you start subscribing onwards. Okay. The full data history on this data set is only about 6 terabytes raw, roughly, uncompressed. So your history is shorter than under the previous one. So you would, depending on how far back you would want to go, you would have to buy some of the equity or the Equity Plus. The equity options, this is probably the rawest of the products that we've got listed at the moment. It's not clear how much history we're going to be able to provide, and this is really also going to be determined by the level of interest that people show in the products. So we're basically going to be very user-driven in terms of what we release and when, according to the level of demand that people reveal. The size for the options data sets, they can be between 1.5 and 5 terabytes for a month of data. So very quickly the history here will outstrip anything that's in the equities data sets. I'll leave you to read through this, but basically this section here just gives you a sort of the highlights of what it is that we're offering and just some of the main points. So once you've purchased your data, you'd like to access that in some way, and that's where you come to our TAQTIQA services. We offer two types, two categories of tickers. We have a TAQTIQA service, which is, if you like, data as a service, and we have TAQTIQA plants. So the TAQTIQA plants are dedicated servers that you would have exclusive access to, and so because of that, you obviously have some additional functionality and additional computing power available to you. So some of the things that you can do for the TAQTIQA plants you can't do with the TAQTIQA service. The TAQTIQA plants, obviously, then, because you're running a dedicated data server, the pricing is going to be a little bit different from the TAQTIQA service. So the TAQTIQA service, you can't really query subsets of the fields. You get the full data set. You can't compress the data. You just get the uncompressed data streaming across the network. You don't have a dedicated virtual machine, and you can't really configure too much. So the TAQTIQA service is ideal for prototyping. And then once you've prototyped or done some prototyping, you could easily switch over to a TAQTIQA plant, and where you'd maybe run a full-scale back test or a full-scale historical analysis. The advantage of the TAQTIQA service is that it scales automatically. Excuse me. You don't have to configure your auto scaling. The bandwidth performance is probably not going to be as high as with the TAQTIQA plants, just because at the TAQTIQA plants you're paying for a dedicated data server. The costing structures now for your TAQTIQA service, you're really just going to be paying your bandwidth costs, whereas for the TAQTIQA plants, you're going to be paying bandwidth, but you're also going to be paying a per hour cost for running your server. On all of our services, your inbound traffic when you're making requests, that's free. We only charge for outbound data, and there's no throttling, no limits on request rates that you can submit. So if we have a look here at the TAQTIQA plant comparisons, you can just see the pricing differences for the different servers. Roughly with the two categories of TAQTIQA plants that we have, you can set up a TAQTIQA plant in quite a dedicated way if you want to have subsets and custom queries. But then if you want to have those custom queries and those subsets, you pay a price in terms of you have to indicate which tickers or which symbols you want to have access. You want to access via that TAQTIQA server. If you're not interested in those custom queries, then you can pretty much get access to all your data through a particular server, and you don't need to do the configuration. Under all of these TAQTIQA plants, you can compress the outcoming data across the network, so that allows you to cut your costs down as well as reduce your latencies across the network, and they're all auto-scale. Okay. And the pricing differs really according to the input-output performance that you have. So again, I'll leave you to go through those higher performances, discusses the costs and the functionality, billing units, those sorts of things. Right, so that's the overview of the tickers. Just to get quickly to the pricing page. So if you were to say you're interested as an individual purchaser, you go to the individual page. We've only got price listings at the moment for US equities. If you're interested in the US Plus data set, which is with millisecond timestamps, and you can also get it with daily updates, you could add that. So you'd add a daily update subscription. If you wanted 6 months of data, you would add, sorry, let's get rid of that. If you wanted 6 months of data, you just add the 6 months. So 4, 5, 6. So you'd have 6 months of data, 1 subscription, and that it costs you roughly $6,000. The history, that payment that you make is a one-off payment, and this is not an ongoing subscription fee, and it includes all the symbols that are available on that market. We don't charge per symbol. So in that sense, the pricing is quite competitive compared to some of the alternatives that you have available. The pricing of the data, as you can see here, is a staggered or tiered pricing schedule. As you buy more data history, it becomes cheaper and cheaper. And yeah, I think at the moment it's around about $113 for the US, about 200 months for the complete history. Okay, so that's how to use the pricing calculator. If you're interested as an enterprise user, you'd need to purchase an enterprise license, and those enterprise licenses include the data updates, whether they're monthly or daily. You'd also need to indicate the number of internal users that you're going to be distributing the data to. And if you're not distributing the data to actual users, if you're maybe only displaying it to them on a web page or a screen, but they can't actually grab the whole data, then you only need to pay a display license of about $1,000 odd. Okay. Again, the pricing schedule for enterprises for the historical data is the same. So if you wanted to buy 2 months of the millisecond history and 2 months of the older history going, say, beyond 2006, as well as having a display license for an unlimited number of displays and to distribute it, the full data set to, let's say, 5 users within your organization, you'd be looking at about $7,000, and you can play around with that calculator there and just to see exactly what it is that fits your budget. Obviously, you can purchase a small data set and just build up your history as you're convinced that that's really what you need. The REST API, this is mainly of interest for developers, for people who might write a client library. Essentially, if you're not familiar with the REST API, the essential so it can get quite technical quite quickly. Basically, we're trying to stay with the REST architecture, which is that there's a single entry point for the API, and then you navigate from that entry point through the available services using links, hyperlinks or hypermedia. So some APIs call themselves RESTful, and really all they're doing is they're just telling you how to construct URLs or URIs. That's not what we do. Only URI or URL you would construct, and this is your entry URL, and from there onwards you would be given the URIs and the URLs to navigate to the next object that you're interested in. The reason why you do this is that it gives us at the back end a degree of flexibility in how we architect our services so that we can handle pretty much any level of scale. So we can assure you that you'll always be able to get your data, but the URLs that you get given when you access that data might differ from time to time depending on how the back-end services are loaded. So from that point of view, it removes a big headache from you in terms of how you scale your access to the data sets that you're interested in. There's quite a lot of detail here if you're really keen on following up or writing a library to access our services. But for most people, you would end up using a client library in the language that you're most comfortable with. So I won't sort of spend much more time discussing the API unless people have questions, which I'm happy to take now.
Anybody got any questions? Alex or Huya? I'm sorry. I'm going to unmute you guys. Hey guys, we've unmuted. You guys got any questions at all? Maybe, maybe not. If you guys want to type them up, if you're shy. Anybody? Oh, we got one. Can you see that question?
Yeah, so what's the benefit compared to other data services? Okay, so which other data services are you talking about? There's a very large number. Do you have somebody specific in mind?
Right.
So you could go from Reuters through to Ignite, Bloomberg. So I would say that unless you're talking about a particular data vendor that you've got in mind, okay, so the main thing that we do differently is we provide the infrastructure for you to access that data in a very easy way that's also very scalable. So you would not have to develop all your own data server infrastructure to access your data once you've purchased it. Some vendors sell you the data servers, the data, so for example, KDB sells you the actual database server software. We don't. We don't tie you down to a particular technology. Other people will sell you the data and then they'll effectively sell you their program that unpacks that data for you. And for us, your data access is completely HTTP and JSON driven. So we use very open technologies. Our data licenses themselves are much cheaper than other vendors, partly because we don't delete data, we don't edit data, we don't change data. What the exchanges have is what you get. That's the primary difference in terms of the data. The tickers are the more interesting thing if you want to avoid having to reconstruct a high availability data service or data server infrastructure. Don't know if that answers your questions, Wu-Jay.
Yeah, I guess it does. Here's a question for you. So right now you have equities and options. Are you going to be adding anything else in terms of market assets like future or forex or coming soon? Or?
Yeah, so we're not opposed to that. What we see the advantage is giving people complete data sets. So if we can find a vendor or if we can get an exchange, for example, that will give us or will offer us the complete records of that commodity or that currency, then yeah, we'd be more than happy to provide that. Some markets are much more closed than others. The foreign exchange market is extremely closed. It's not possible to get such a thing as far as we're aware, a foreign exchange data set, say for the US dollar euro, where every venue is included in that data set. You can get some venues that are included and some not. So depending on what the exchanges and the intermediaries offer, that's really what drives what we would offer. For the moment, our initial focus is on equity markets and then equity options.
And when do you officially go live, or are you still in your beta mode, or?
Yeah, so we don't make promises on roadmaps. We basically just develop, and when things are ready, we make them available as soon as they're ready. We don't hold off to a release date, and we don't push something out just to make a release date. So to find out as soon as something becomes available, either sign up and submit your email addresses and we'll let you know that way, or follow on the Twitter account, which is @TAQTIQA, and you'll get the announcements straight away there.
Okay. You have any other questions, Ujay? Not sure. No, I guess that's it. I guess that's pretty well up from my end as well. What I'll do, Mark, is I'll put this up on YouTube, or would you like the raw file as well, or how do you want to?
Yeah. Well, maybe we can discuss that and just let everybody else go home or go to dinner, whatever they're doing.
Okay.
But yeah, the raw file would be great.
Okay. I'll start recording.